Hey guys, how's it going? It's Infernoman again. Welcome back to another video, and this time I'm giving you guys a sequel to my video where I not only ranked my top 10 favorite Pokemon from the Kanto region, but gave a letter grade to each of their shiny colorations. Of course, the only way to continue this is by moving on in regional order, so today we'll be visiting Pokemon from the Johto region. Johto is one of the best regions in my opinion, and a lot of fan favorite Pokemon came from Gold and Silver. It was difficult to only choose 10, but after all, I was finally able to do it. If you're excited for this video, destroy the like button and even consider clicking that subscribe button to boost me closer to my goal of 300 subscribers by December 1st. Let's slide right into the countdown. Majestically soaring into the number 10 spot is one of the greatest legendaries of all time, Hooh. Being a kid with a passion for Pokemon isn't easy when you don't have access to the games. But the day my brother introduced me to emulators, I was immediately hooked. While Blue version was the first game I had played, Gold was the first one I had completed. While Hooh isn't exactly iconic enough to be recognized by those who aren't exactly involved with the series, it still plays a major part in Pokemon, especially the Johto games. Like I mentioned with Mewtwo in the last video, legendaries aren't exactly my favorite Pokemon. Yeah, of course they're the mascots we see when picking up a copy of the newest entry into the franchise. But when you get them so late in the game, and every Pokemon on your team is one you've grown a major bond with, legendaries just end up in your box. However, Hooh is a special case, as I used it in my team in the post-game in Kanto. When it comes to its shiny, there are no flaws. The combination of colors is too good to describe with a certain amount of words, and really makes you forget that it came from a gen where shinies were decided by a program rather than the designer. Hooh's shiny gets an A+, and I hope to be getting one soon in the Crown Tundra. Slicing and dicing its way into the number 9 spot is Scizor. If you ask me, Scizor didn't really need an evolution. It's fantastic the way it is, and most Pokemon, emphasis on most, that receive evolutions in later generations would have done just fine design-wise without them. However, when it comes to each and every one of them, the ones we received are definitely worth it. While playing through Johto itself, I never had a Scizor, let alone a Scizor, but I have used it a couple of times in other games. There's not too many promising steel types in my opinion, but Scizor is definitely one of the best to date. In other games, Scizor does beautifully in Pokken Tournament, and is one of my favorite Pokemon to unleash when battling with items in Super Smash Bros. The Mega Evolution it gets may not be one of my favorites, but it's really powerful either way, and I wouldn't get rid of it for anything. When talking about its shiny, being one who doesn't mind lime green shinies, this one's pretty mediocre. While I can agree the combination of lime green and pine green works pretty well, I think there's better shiny possibilities out there for it. Overall, I'm giving shiny Scizor a C. Scampering into the number 8 spot is Hound Doom. This one is pretty much a special case. I don't really have a personal connection with this Pokemon, as I don't recall a single time I've used it as a team member. However, it has been a Pokemon that I've liked for a very long time simply because of its design. Sometimes the inspiration for Pokemon in earlier gens really amazes me, considering there were so many animals and creations to base them on. The existence of a Devil Dog or Hellhound in a generation as early as Gen 2 is pretty freaking cool, and they did an awesome job with it. The Devil's Horns, Exoskeleton Ribcage, and Spine on this Pokemon is really what makes this Pokemon unique. And as one of the first dog Pokemon, I think it's super solid. When I think of dog Pokemon, generally Rockruff will come to mind nowadays, but Hound Doom definitely ranks up there with the others. In the Game Boy Color through DS era, shiny Houndour and shiny Houndoom were top notch. Black changes into a blueberry color and really gives them the best shiny they could have. However, when this was translated into 3D models for X and Y, it looks really weird and just looks like somebody painted it blue. Even though the 3D models for the shiny aren't the greatest, that doesn't bring down its score too drastically. I gave shiny Houndoom a B+. Splashing into the number 7 spot, it might not surprise you guys that the Poliwag family returns to the list in the form of Polytoad. When Pokemon had become an obsession of mine, the only way I took it in was by watching the anime. And if you had Netflix in the great year of 2012 like I did, then you probably remember that the only anime seasons available to stream were Indigo League, the Orange Islands, and every season of the Black and White anime. Since most of my intake of Pokemon came from Gens 1 and 5, I had no idea certain Pokemon were either from the Johto region, or knew that they were in existence in general. In Polytoad's case, I wouldn't find out about this froggy boy until I came across Project Pokemon on Roblox 2 years later. While my timeline of Pokemon intake and discovery is pretty comedic from the point of view of others, I'm very cultured when it comes to Pokemon nowadays. While Poliwrath is my favorite choice between the two, I love Polytoad almost as much. And I've even used it in 2 playthroughs. One of these playthroughs was Roblox's Pokemon Brick Bronze, which was my go-to Pokemon game before I was shown the magic of emulators, which wouldn't come for a year or two following this playthrough. Polytoad was a tank, It was my leading team member most of the time, and I was truly convinced there was no better flying type move than Bounce. However, I didn't discover the true magic of this Pokemon until I decided to play Ultra Sun with a full team of Pokemon I never used before. This is something I usually do with Pokemon games. I build the generic team that basically everyone uses in most playthroughs with the first version I play, and with the second version I try to build a bond with different Pokemon. While I had used Polytoad before, I decided that Roblox wasn't exactly the greatest place to experience Pokemon, so I decided to use it on this Ultra Sun team. I cherish this Pokemon, and while I may not love it as much as its fighting type counterpart, I still really love it. When it comes to its shiny, Polytoad isn't too shabby. The cotton candy, or fairy floss for my viewers from the UK, combination of blue and pink reminds me of the days I would flip open a Trix yogurt and keep myself from becoming too tempted to grab another. For the sake of childhood nostalgia, Polytoad's shiny receives a grade of an A-. Buzzing into the number 6 spot is Heracross. If anyone asked me if I could choose one of Ash's Pokemon to bring back from Johto, without a thought I would say Heracross. Ash's Heracross kicked ass in the anime, being a major leg in 2 different leagues, and even being cut off by Cyndaquil when it was sent to Ash instead of Heracross. I could definitely see Ash reuniting with this Pokemon someday, and its existence is basically the foundation for my love for this Pokemon. One of the best options for a fighting type in the Generation 2 games is a Heracross. You can catch it by headbutting trees as early in the game as the route right before the Slowpoke well, and it fares pretty well against Whitney, Jasmine, and Price, as well as Will and Karen in the Elite Four. While it is pretty rare in the game, it is a fantastic and iconic Pokemon, and the classicity of its existence is very prominent. When it comes to its shiny, I'm not a huge fan of pink ones. While I can admit that a few of them are pretty cool, they just don't do it for me. While Heracross became the "you are what you eat" of Pepto-Bismol, I do think it works. I gave the shiny a B- because trust me, it could definitely be worse. Waltzing into the number 5 spot is Slowking. Classic Slowbro and Slowking are a very great Pokemon, and when it comes between the two, there's a competition of which one is better. I remember watching Pokemon the movie 2000 and being more than confused about why Slowbro had a crown and why it was speaking perfect English. My brother explained to me that this was actually Slowking, which they find out later in the movie. It had not occurred to me, however, that this was an actual Pokemon and not a movie character, and I remember being shocked about finding out that it's its own Pokemon. We recently found out what its Galarian form looks like, and since I already have a completely separate video explaining my opinions on everything about it, I will tell you the list of disappointments it holds simply hands Slowbro the crown for the better form. I personally have more of a connection with the king, however. In another one of those bond-growing playthroughs, Slowking received my Water and Psychic type slots, and was even an early Pokemon on my team just because I planned this team before even starting the file, so I had it traded to me, by myself of course. I just love Slowking overall, and I definitely think it deserves more recognition than it gets. When it comes to its shiny, however, it could use some work. It's not terrible at all, but the palette seems very random and doesn't work the best together. Slowbro wins in this category as well, but the grade I'm giving to Slowking is a C+. Zipping into the number 4 spot is Umbreon. Umbreon is my second favorite evolution. While I loved and admired my Vaporeon and Leaf Green, my first playthrough of Silver brought me an Umbreon. I loved having Umbreon as a team member, and during that same Ultra Sun playthrough that featured Polytoad, I chose Umbreon to add to my team, although this one was for a much shorter time since I had already used it in a full playthrough. Many people have one evolution to share negative opinions on, but while a lot of these cases have become known to me over time, not once have I heard somebody say they hated Umbreon. As the representation for the back then newly added Dark type, you can't tell me there's a better design for this slot than a Pokemon that is essentially a shadow in the form of a dog. While it was originally planned to be Poison type, it has always had a better design than a lot of earlier gen Pokemon, and I see why multiple PokeTubers have it as their mascots. People have a lot of positive things to say about its shiny as well, claiming it has the best shiny of an evolution. While there isn't much change, namely the tiny brightening of the black parts of its fur and changing the yellow rings to blue, it still is a good shiny, and I'd have to give it an A-. Crashing into the number 3 spot is Ampharos. Ampharos is an icon when it comes to many playthroughs of mine. Early access to Mareep and Johto makes it easy to claim this as the Electro-type representation on a run-through of Johto, and I even used it on my very first Black 2 team. I simply love Ampharos, and while a lot of pure electric types are as boring as they come, Ampharos is ranked super high in my mind. When it comes to the Mareep vs Wooloo debate, I would love nothing more than to die on Mareep Hill. While Wooloo and even Dubwool are great additions to the Pokemon games, especially as representation of the amount of sheep that Scotland is famous for, no sheep or goat Pokemon can beat the classic design of the Mareep family. and it's kind of hard to believe Ampharos has a Mega Evolution, in a positive way of course. When it comes to its shiny, we return to the pink category. I definitely like this shiny more than Heracross's, but it's not a huge leap forward from it. I gave the shiny a B+. Flapping into the number 2 spot is Crowbat. Remember earlier in Scizor's entry when I said most Pokemon didn't need new evolutions in future gens? We are very blessed that the designers at Game Freak decided to give Golbat an evolution. In the very short time before Crowbat existed, Zubat and Golbat were seen, and are still seen, as the most annoying Pokemon to run into. Caves are notorious and infamous for the amount of encounters you run into while trying to make your way through them, and in most cases, Zubat is the worst. This evolutionary line was saved with the addition of Crowbat. Not only is it impossible to encounter in most places, making it less likely to be hated for the same reason as the other two, but it has a very awesome design for what it is. It might be weird seeing a bat with a huge mouth become a bat with a mostly closed mouth, but all that does is make you forget about what comes before it. It's just a Pokemon that would do just fine as a Pokemon of its own species, and I have used it in countless playthroughs, considering Zubat is available in the majority of main series games very early on. Crowbat is too common to not use, and it used to be my favorite poison type Pokemon. While there are many positive things to share about Crowbat, we eventually have to discuss its shiny. Golbat and Zubat beat Crowbat in this category. While the unoriginal lime greenness isn't the coolest thing for these shinies, they look god tier compared to the repulsive pink garbage that shiny Crowbat is. The color on this one is actually bad. It just becomes a barely distinctive shade of pink that reminds me of strawberry milk with not enough Nesquik powder. And the inside of its wings are a horrid shade of green that I don't even think is lime. I've done a very good job of rating the shinies on this list with at least a C, but Crowbat sinks to a new low with a D-. Swimming into the number 1 spot is one you probably saw coming. You guys might not like seeing that Typhlosion was not mentioned a single time on this list, and frankly, I think it's just as overrated as Charizard would have been if it hadn't been given the Mega and G-Max treatment. Feraligatr is simply my favorite water type starter Pokemon, and yes, that means I rank it higher than Greninja. Sorry if that upsets you. Choosing your starter is always a complicated process, and in Johto's case, Chikorita gets yeeted to bring the decision down to Cyndaquil and Totodile. Totodile is my first starter from Johto, and I've used it in almost every unrandomized playthrough since. Not only this, but it was an MVP on the Platinum Randomizer Nuzlocke team right here on this channel. And its demise was definitely a devastating one for me and those who happened to view the Hour of Power episode. Feraligatr is just my Typhlosion, and there's simply no other way to put it. I believe Ash's Totodile should have been given the chance to evolve at least once. And if not that, all 3 of his starters from Johto should have been fully evolved. Its shiny form isn't the greatest though. While the change is definitely noticeable, the original blue parts don't seem to change too much, which makes it awkward when paired with the Lapis shade of blue for its scales. I give the shiny a C+, but that's not too bad for my grading scale. Well guys, there you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite Pokemon from Johto, and not only did you watch this video to find that out, you also got to know how I would grade their shinies. I truly think this video is a unique and new way of combining 2 different types of scripted videos into one, and I'm really happy it came to me some time ago. If you want to see me do this with Hoenn Pokemon, make sure you show some love to that like button and even consider subscribing. That's going to do it for this video. This is Inferno Man burning out, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.